Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Well, hello, everyone. Today, my guest is John Horn, the CEO of StubGroup. And today, we're going to talk about how to make Google Ads work for your business in 2025. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I start every podcast with, tell us your story. How did you get here and do what you're doing?
Yeah, well, a little over a decade ago at this point, I was working in various marketing roles, not anything like what I'm doing currently. And back then, my brother and a good friend of his, they saw this need in advertising, specifically digital advertising, which is you've got all these companies who are kind of moving from traditional media, from TV ads and radio and so forth. And they're moving into this digital space of Google ads and Facebook ads and things like that. And they needed help. They needed stewardship of how to, navigate these new channels. And so my brother, his friend, they started a business, which became StubGroup, and then brought me on as employee number one with them. And really, we figured these things out together and grew the company, grew our client base, bootstrapped things, figured out how to run campaigns successfully for ourselves and for our clients, and then ultimately grew a team, brought on great talent to help us with that and get to the place where we are today. So it's been a fun last decade or so of figuring out digital advertising and working with tons and tons of really great clients along the way.
Yeah. So what is it that StubGroup does that's different? Because there's hundreds of companies out there that tell you that they will fix your problems with your pay-per-click, your Google ads, your whatever SEO, all of that sort of stuff. How is it that what you're doing is different, and how do you make it effective?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Like you said, there are tons and tons of agencies and resources out there that do the type of work that we do. I think there are some things that separate the really good providers from the rest of the pack. Some of those things are, I'd say the biggest thing is focusing on really what's going to move the needle for the client in terms of generating revenue and profit, as opposed to focusing on like these vanity metrics of, well, hey, I got you this many impressions for your ads or clicks or views on your video or whatever. At the end of the day, what I care about with our clients is how are we helping them make money and grow their businesses? And so we put a lot of work into trying to identify on the advertising side of things, what is actually working, what is driving leads in the door, getting people on the phone, placing orders through the client's website, et cetera. And then how can we double down on that and get more of that? And then how can we find those other areas where it's just wasteful spending and cut waste there and save money for clients? So that's a really important part of things. And then another kind of a unique thing that StubGroup does that is a specialty not a lot of other agencies have is we have a very deep understanding of Google ad policies. And we've helped a tremendous number of businesses who have had issues with Google Ads policies, which have prevented them from running ads, either causing their ads to be disapproved or their accounts to be suspended. We've been able to help them figure out what went wrong, kind of prove to Google that they're not trying to do something wrong, that they are a legitimate part of the ecosystem, and then getting them back online with Google. And that's been really, really fun as well. Just honestly saving businesses, getting them back into what is often their largest advertising channel, which is Google Ads.
So what is it that people do wrong? How do they run afoul of the Google police?
Yeah, so sometimes it's things they've done wrong. Sometimes it's not even anything they've done wrong, and it's just Google's automated systems, flagging things incorrectly. There are a host of things. It could range anything from they entered their billing information incorrectly into their ad account, and Google then flags that and then doesn't let them back online without going through this nightmare process, just because Google's processes are not good in this area, which is crazy. It's like, hey, I want to pay you money, Google. Oh, nope, you can't. Okay, let's figure this out. But anything from anything like that to as simple as not having the right policy pages on a website, to using trademarks incorrectly in ad copy, to things like having your website hacked and malicious software being added to the website, needing to clean that up. Tons and tons of different things that at the end of the day, advertisers they don't know what went wrong, and often Google doesn't tell them explicitly what went wrong. And so they need expertise from someone who's just seen so many of these situations over time that we have a sense for, okay, we need to fix this. And then we needed to appeal things with Google in this way.
So most of the time, it's not actually that they've done anything wrong. It's just that something triggered some flag in the Google ad world that said, "Oh, naughty, bad, evil, wicked."
Definitely a combination. Yeah, sometimes it's, yes, they did something unknowingly that violated Google's policies. Not maliciously. We don't work with the people who are trying to scam Google and trying to be malicious. But yeah, sometimes it's, hey, let's legitimate mistake. Hey, I didn't know I couldn't have a redirect to my ads or whatever. And then sometimes, yeah, it's just Google saying, oh, we think you're suspicious and a bad business. And we're like, why? we have to go to court and prove you why we're not.
You have to. Yeah, it's one of those cases where guilty until proven innocent. Sometimes, right?
100%.
Which is fortunately not the way our system of jurisprudence works. But if you're trying to run ads on a platform, the platform gets to set the rules. So exactly. I get that. Yeah. So what's going to change in 2025? How is it that people are going to be doing different things? I mean, I know with the advent of AI, and we can talk about that in a minute, but I'd like to understand, what do you see as the fundamental shifts or what's going on here that says, we're going to figure out how to make these work in 2025. So what's changing?
Yeah, you mentioned AI, and I think one of the interesting things about where we are right now is that Google in particular as a search engine, kind of for the first time in a long time, is seeing some real competition. In this case, from things like ChatGPT, where people can go there to actually do their searching without going to Google as a search engine. Now, I don't think in 2025 that we're going to see a significant percentage share of Google's, share of market change, because that takes time. You have early adopters who are already using it, but for the vast majority of people, it takes a long time to change habits. And right now, everyone's habit is go to Google first for searches. So I don't think that we're going to see a massive change in market share in 2025. But if the trajectory we're seeing right now continues, then it is a real concern for Google as a business, and also something that advertisers who use Google, or any businesses who use Google to get traffic, should be aware of. So that's something we're watching very closely. I think a second thing we're watching very closely is what Google is doing with what they call their AI overviews. And this is when you go and search something on Google right now, often the first thing you see come up is not actually links to other websites like it used to be, but it's an AI generated answer to what you're searching for. And it's pulling information, obviously, from the web. And if you want to dig further into things, Google gives you links to source where they're getting this AI generated information. But this is something that is, impacting kind of that search landscape significantly, because Google's trying to answer questions for people right when they do a search. And on the advertising side of things, Google is going to start integrating advertising into these AI overviews as well. The big questions that haven't been answered yet are exactly what that's going to look like, how, what control we have over those ads, et cetera. And so this year, that's one of the biggest things I think that advertisers are watching is, all right, how are we going to integrate advertising into this new location when people search for information on Google?
Yeah, so Google hasn't said what they're going to do with how they're integrating those, or will you have to pay extra? I'm betting you will, to become one of those preferred vendors in the AI piece of the Google search, just like costs you something to become go higher and higher in the page ranking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So similar kind of, is that your expectation that Google is going to change their cost model or their price model so that you get to choose whether you're in the regular below the AI or in the AI?
I think what they'll do, so the goal is always, how can we best monetize people's
Gee, they
searches?
want to make money.
They want to make the most money possible as
Yeah.
a business, which I understand. So at the end of the day, what they're figuring out right now is that balance between how do we make as much money as possible, but also how do we compete with things like ChatGPT? Because if people, if a user leaves Google for another source of information, then there's no ability to monetize them. And so you've got to strike that balance between answering questions as quickly as possible while also finding ways to make money off of that. And so what I think we'll see is, I think Google will allow advertisers to access kind of that inventory in the AI overviews in similar ways to how we serve ads right now, lower down on the page. But I think that the specific strategies that we run to serve ads there will probably be a bit different. And I think the biggest unknown right now is how much control Google's going to give advertisers, because what Google likes to do is to kind of button everything up into a black box and be like, all right, we have as much control, we being Google, as possible on where we put your ad, how we show it, how much we charge you, etc. Whereas advertisers like StubGroup are always saying, we need more control, we need more visibility, transparency. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of where Google falls on that side of things. Will it be more of a black box, or more of a, yes, we can control and see how that placement performs and how much we want to spend for that traffic and things like that?
Do you see ChatGPT trying to monetize their search in the same way that Google does?
That's a fantastic question. I would say eventually, I think yes, they will have to, because there's so much money that they would leave on the table by not doing it, that I don't see them making that choice. But I think it may take a while before that happens, for two reasons. One, they already have a different model than Google, in that they obviously have paid versions of ChatGPT, so they can make direct money from user fees in a way that Google doesn't, because access to Google is free unless you're getting really fancy with like a YouTube TV subscription or something like that. And right now, ChatGPT is totally focused on really capturing market share. And so the best way to capture market share is to annoy people as little as possible. People don't like ads, generally speaking, and so no ads right now. But I think as they get to a place where they're less focused on market share and probably more focused on monetization of what they've captured, I think eventually they will add advertising to their product.
It certainly seemed to me that they could be intelligent about it and use the AI as, if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a restaurant near me as a ChatGPT search, well, it would behoove them to encourage folks to do that, at least the geographic equivalent of that, right? If somebody's looking for a specific kind of service, it doesn't bother me that, I see the first few are sponsored. That's not so yeah, I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch. I hadn't even thought of it before this, but I mean, I had heard that ChatGPT is taking away market share from Google, but I hadn't thought about ChatGPT monetizing it in the same way.
And I think too, they're equipped, and Google certainly is in this race as well with Google Gemini and whatnot. Sure. But they're equipped to kind of take things a step further than Google. Whereas Google is, find information, you click on it, you go to the website, do whatever. With how agents in the AI world are developing, we'll be at a place, I think, where it's not just type in a ChatGPT, what are the best restaurants near me, and then click on an ad to go purchase. It will be tell ChatGPT or whatever the service is, go book a reservation for me. And it actually goes and does the work and then comes back. And so obviously there has to be some choice of, well, which restaurant is the agent going to choose? And so there will be tremendous opportunities there, to say, okay, well, I want my restaurant to be the go-to. How do I pay for that to happen? And so just all kinds of ways to monetize, I would say, that are kind of additional or beyond how we think of traditional, ads on a search engine today.
Yeah. And the advantage, of course, of doing that in ChatGPT is it knows something about me. It knows my dietary restrictions or my restaurant preferences or when I like to eat or, those kinds of things, so that some of the intelligence can be put in. Oh, by the way, my favorite restaurant isn't open on Monday, right? So I have to pick someplace else, right? Like those kinds of things that, again, Google can do that, but the current model isn't. And again, as Gemini gets more and more intelligent, right, or gets this agentic-like capability.
Yeah, having that memory of essentially an assistant who knows you, understands you, and remembers, your conversations and your likes in a way that's better than a human can, generally speaking. Obviously, it's got its own weird things that happen. But yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling what the opportunities are.
Hey, note for the listeners: if you use ChatGPT a lot, go ask it what it knows about you. You'd be interested in understanding what's in its memory, and you have the ability to control that and to take things out if you don't like what it's done, or it went off on some weird tangent as you were trying to explore something that isn't normally something you do. You might want to take a look at what it. So, John, what else do you see? What do you see in the Google ad space?
Oh, sorry, I had the audio cut out there for a minute. What else we see in the Google ad space coming this year? So I think another significant trend that we're dealing with right now is that tracking the success or just the results of advertising, this is true of Google and all other platforms as well, is actually getting more difficult over time, because there is a push, understandably, for more privacy. So you have browsers like Safari, for example, that like to block as much tracking as they can. You have people who are using things like VPNs, ad blockers, and all sorts of things that just make it harder to tie, someone interacted with this ad, and then here's the results of that, and kind of going down the journey until they ultimately take the action that we wanted them to take. And so because it's getting harder to track some aspects of advertising, it's also becoming very important to look big picture and to measure things very closely using things like media efficiency ratio, which is just this idea of here's how much revenue we're generating, here's how much we're spending on marketing. How does that change over time? When we invest more into marketing, are we seeing an increase in our revenue? Or are we just seeing less efficient spend of that marketing dollars because revenue is staying flat, but marketing is increasing? And then seeing how that changes when we invest into different channels, different types of campaigns and strategies, and so forth. And so I think there's a lot of room in kind of this bigger picture attribution modeling, but also just really thinking through, okay, I'm not going to know what every single click is doing necessarily, but how can I look overall at how my advertising or my marketing is impacting my bottom line? And then how can I improve from there?
Yeah, what metrics you choose to look at carefully. And I like the idea of doing the little experiments where you increase your marketing dollars a little bit and then say, okay, well, what does that do to my revenue, right? Is my average cost of acquisition going up or down as I increase my marketing spend or decrease my marketing spend? And it may be that it's more efficient to maybe spend a little bit less. Could be, right? Again,
Absolutely.
And maybe you go after a different, and I'm sure you test this all the time. Maybe you go after a slightly different demographic because that demographic seems to be doing better at this, all those, again, metrics are key. I spent 30 years in high tech and worked, over 20 years at Intel, and Andy Grove was the master of the metric, right? What gets measured gets managed.
Yes.
And that's really, it sounds like the StubGroup really takes that to heart and really looks at those metrics very, very carefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, talk to me about niche industries. Talk to me about your specialty there. I know you guys do some things that are a little bit different in that space.
Yeah, well, I sometimes I like to say that every other day I learn about a way to make money I didn't know existed. There are so many interesting, unique ways to make money, and the internet's done such a cool job of opening that up to people, where you can reach people who have this incredibly specific niche interest or need, and you can find all of them through the internet because they're all on the internet in ways that you couldn't in pre-internet days necessarily. And so we get to work with a lot of kind of unique niches also because of our work in the policy space, because everybody has policy issues. And so they come to us for help, and we're able to help them with that. And then often we're able to help them with their advertising after that, after they've gotten back online with Google. And so at the end of the day, it's about like success in some of these niches is about figuring out, okay, well, what are the people that are relevant to you? What are they searching for? How are they searching? Are they even searching for what you do? Or are they spending time in particular locations? So a good example would be, we had a client we worked with for many years in the education space. They have this incredibly specific course that they offered. It was for people with a particular level of education, particular background, a particular interest in kind of nonprofit management. And so there's probably 100, 200 people a year in the world who are interested in this, but we won't find them. And so it's like, okay, so for them, it's not about scale. It's about, hunting and pecking and finding where are those specific people. And so, what the strategy we took for them is kind of a combination of, okay, well, here are some of the types of things that this person might be searching for. And if they search for that, then let's get in front of them there. And then these are the places they spend their time online. And so let's target ads at those locations. So if they're reading this particular thread or this particular website or blog, then there's a decent chance that they, at least, some of those people who are reading those things are a part of our target audience. And that's always a unique unique challenge of kind of hunting and pecking and finding those people and doing that in a cost-effective way. Because it's not like we can just say, okay, let's spend $5 million and run a TV ad and, we'll find a couple people in there. It's like, no, we don't have unlimited budget. So let's be very efficient and go on that scavenger hunt, so to speak.
Yeah. So if I can ask, what's the most unusual way to make money? Because you mentioned this nonprofit space. What's your favorite story in that space?
That's a great question. So many different things come to mind. There's a client that sold letters from Santa. You could purchase a letter from Santa to give to your children for Christmas. That was actually a very, very popular, very, very popular service.
Interesting.
You have the client who helps people get their deposits back. So if a landlord is holding on to your security deposit kind of unlawfully, they'll help you fight that and get that back and go to court for you. So many more that come to mind. Yeah. But it's just a lot of people have unique needs out there, and if they have a need, someone's figuring out a way to make money off of filling that need.
That's certainly always true, right? If you have a need, there's probably somebody out there that will sell it to you.
Exactly.
So John, I understand you have a free gift for our listeners or some free downloads. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So if you're listening to this, watching this, we've got some free stuff on our website. Just go to stubgroup.com/free. There's a couple of resources you can download there. Some information about not violating Google's policies, how to prevent issues from happening, some information about how to run profitable Google Ads campaigns, and a couple of other things as well that are completely free and hopefully informational.
Great. And if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with the StubGroup?
Best place would be through our website, stubgroup.com. Fill out a form or give us a call. We'd love to chat. And I'd also say, if you're just looking for more information, some more content, not ready to chat quite yet, we put a lot of free content out on our channel. It's called StubGroup on YouTube. Search for that. And there's tons of free videos about Google Ads and marketing in general that we put on there.
Great. Thanks. And that concludes our show. Thanks so much to my guest, John Horn, CEO of StubGroup. And I hope you learned something about how to make Google Ads work for your business. I know I did. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.